Amir, let me just quickly throw this to you because I think Americans are a little bit puzzled, and we all know that many Jews are left-leaning politically, and in some other issues they're left-leaning. But what is their perception of President Trump, and particularly, and I want your take on what happened back on February 15th, this incredible meeting where the Netanyahus were just received with a loving embrace by the Trumps, etc. Give me your comment.
First of all, what a difference between the first meeting with Obama that happened almost at midnight, and he had to be smuggled through the back door. At nighttime without any media that was allowed to cover it. I mean, it's almost like you smuggle a leader of a terrorist organization with whom you need to meet, not your best friend probably in the whole world. And so it was a great difference between the first meeting with Obama and the first meeting with Trump. Trump could have not made Netanyahu feel more comfortable. But I think we have to look at the substance of the meeting. For the first time, this whole junk of two-state solution that has not been working since 1947, since it was offered by the UN and it has been rejected every time, repeatedly, by the Palestinians and the rest of the Arab world that encouraged them not to accept it. Finally, somebody has the courage to say whether it's one state or two states, as long as it's okay with the two parties, I'll accept it. Which means I'm not going to dictate anything to the region because obviously so far it didn't work. And then came up the big bomb that Netanyahu dropped, which obviously Trump was a little bit surprised that he did that. And that was, we're not even looking at only the Israeli-Palestinian direct talks. We're looking at a regional talk, regional peace with the moderate Sunni Muslim countries like Saudi and the Gulf states, and together with Jordan and Egypt, that will be a great alliance. Interesting, because 2 days later, the Saudis immediately said, we are willing to work with the Trump administration about these things. They did not say that it's not going to happen. And so we see that with all that is happening in the Middle East right now, and all the extreme Shiite terrorism and the extreme Sunni terrorism, both ISIS on the Sunni side and Iran on the Shiite side, Saudi and the Gulf states are actually looking at Israel as the solution, not the problem right now. And there is no doubt, even Bible prophecy in Ezekiel 38, you see that Sheba and Dedan, the Saudis, are criticizing the attack of the Russians and the Iranians, the Libyans, the Sudanese, and the Turks on Israel. They are on the side with the Europeans and the Americans that criticizes this whole thing. So it's fascinating to see how we're moving to that track that could have not happened before. By the way, just so you know, Netanyahu offered this whole thing a year ago, and it was actually shut down by the American administration of that time. So we see unbelievable things that are happening. Does the media in Israel love Trump? No. The media, of course, is not on his side. That they portrayed him as a lunatic, as a crazy man, and they even associate the anti-Semitic events with the Trump administration. They don't understand that those who hate Trump are actually causing or trying to embarrass him by causing all of these things across America of attacking Jewish people and attacking. Why would Trump be accused of being anti-Semitic when he's the best friend of Israel and he has a Jewish son-in-law and a Jewish daughter? Of course, it's irreasonable. But you can see that with all the fake news and with all the fog and with all the confusion, those that hate Trump are hurting Jewish people. So it will look as if Trump and Trump supporters are doing that. So all that together, it's quite staggering. And of course, the Israelis aren't sure what's going on. If they believe the media, obviously Trump is bad news. But when they see a U.S. ambassador to the UN that speaks in such an amazing way, when they see a president, first lady praying before her husband speak, when they see a president that receives their prime minister in the most loving and supporting way, then they see something else. So again, the media is playing a very, very significant role in trying to confuse the people, even here in Israel. But I think the majority of the people in Israel are pretty much on Trump's side. especially after the February 15 meeting that they all saw and were quite amazed.
Thank you for that clarification. That's excellent to get a first-hand report like that. Just because the clock races here, JD, I want to throw this to you, but Amira, feel free to comment as well, please. JD, you have said that the main reason that the migrants, the immigrants, are pouring into America, for that matter, the Western world, is that they eventually expect to get Sharia law here or in Europe. I call it immigration jihad. And your family were immigrants from the Mideast in the early 1960s. They came, I believe, from Lebanon. They actually assimilated. And as you peruse, as you see what's going on in Western Europe and in America, my goodness, and you talk about it on your YouTube presentations. Talk to us about it for a minute or two.
My mother and father, when I was 9 months old, fled the Middle East because of Islam. They immigrated legally as refugees to America. My father said, quote, soon after he left Egypt, persecution of various Christian groups as well as Jews began as they lost their jobs, their property, and their civil rights. This is March the 20th, 1963. They came to America. They worked hard. They became citizens. They started businesses. My father was a high school teacher. And the reason they had to flee to America from Islam is because my father says, quote, he attracted some Mohammedans, Muslims, to Christianity, and that thickened the problem with the government because they thought he was dangerous. Now think about that. Under Obama, the Christians could not come.
Right.
My parents, if it was under Obama, would not have been allowed into the United States of America.
That's right.
And conversely, those who are truly dangerous, quote unquote, are being let in. It's a Trojan horse, as Michelle Bachmann has talked about on your program, by the way.
Right.
It is a Trojan horse. They are coming. They are already here under the banner of this immigration, this migrant crisis.
Amir, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that if you want to know the outcome of this illegal, radical Muslim immigration, just go to Europe. Go to France, go to Sweden, go to the Netherlands, go to Germany, and ask their own people. It is unbelievable, and the media will not report. I'm talking about the world media. Mm-hmm. The global media will not report that. And I have a lot of connections in Europe. In fact, I'm quite surprised that with all that I said about Europe, both in regards to the Antichrist and in regards to what is going on right now, I'm still being invited to Europe to speak. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that the Europeans are so angry. They are so humiliated with what their governments did. And you're about to see one government after the other. All the very liberal left governments are going to fall, one after the other, including Angela Merkel. Yes. She won't stay in power because the damage that has been done to those countries is almost irreversible. And as long as the local, at least non-Muslim, majority is there in Europe, they will try to topple this, or they will try to turn it around. And look what's going on even in France. Marine Le Pen is saying, we have to tackle that. And if it takes, even for me to ban Jews from wearing the yarmulkes, then I will do that, as long as I can stop radical Islam from infiltrating into France, because I'm not going to allow that. So you can see that Europe, in the process of stopping Islam, is going to even sacrifice Jesus and sacrifice anything that has to do with their Jewish, Judeo-Christian symbols, as long as that will stop Islam from taking over.
Gentlemen, hundreds of evangelical leaders here in America say that we must do the same thing, allow in as many Islamic refugees as we can, even though the agencies bringing them in forbid any kind of witnessing, so this probably is a social justice issue, but hundreds of evangelical leaders are making an appeal for as many Muslims to come in here as possible.